Very occasionally, clients will require extra finance in order to purchase their dream home in the sun. In this week's edition of 2 Minute Tuesday with Hondon Valley Homes, we're going to look at the requirements and the parameters set out by the banks in order to arrange a mortgage here in Spain. Welcome to this week's edition of 2 Minute Tuesday with Hondon Valley Homes. Now, I would estimate that at least 95% of the clients who purchase properties from us here in the Hondon Valley are cash buyers. Now, they either have the necessary funds in the bank, or they have sold, or they're in the process of selling a property with which they will fund the purchase. However, a very small percentage of clients will require a mortgage, and we're going to look at how the bank assess your application and what you need in order to qualify for a mortgage with a Spanish bank. There are literally dozens of banks in Spain. Some of them are regional, some of them are national, and they all have very different lending policies. However, the information I'm going to give you is based on the most common requirements of the banks that are currently actively lending. There is little point in me quoting things like interest rates and terms and conditions, as these change on a frequent basis, and it'll be out of date when this video is published. So we're going to stick just to the very basics. Now, typically the banks in Spain are going to be lending a maximum of 70%. However, this is where you need to be a little bit more careful. It's not 70% of the sale price, it's more likely to be 70% of their valuation of the villa. Now, they do this in order to minimise the risk to the bank. They always will undervalue the property. So if we take, for an example, a typical property in Hondon Valley, sale price 200,000. The bank will send along a valuer and they will value the property for lending purposes at 175,000. Now remember, this isn't the actual value of the property, this is the bank's valuation for the mortgage, taking into account their risk assessment. Now if the bank are willing to offer you 70% mortgage, it's 70% of their valuation at 175. This means that they're going to lend you approximately 125,000 against the property. So in order to purchase a property of 200,000, the bank will lend you no more than 125,000. So you would need a deposit of 75,000. It's also worth remembering that the bank won't lend against the buyer fees and taxes, so you need to take these into account when calculating your budget. Now on our website we have downloadable ebooks, we've got articles, we've got videos similar to this about the costs associated with buying here in Spain. So it's worthwhile having a look at all this information that we've made available for you. Okay, so that's the end of the maths lesson. In truth, they don't exist. They're simply there to grab your attention and to reel you in. At Hondon Valley Homes, we only deal directly with the banks and not with brokers. So if you need finance, we will point you directly towards the lenders and not towards a third party. Now, obviously the banks in Spain have got no credit history for you as a foreign purchaser. Therefore, the obligation is on you to prove that you are a creditworthy entity and that you are of little default risk to the bank. Now, the banks are going to ask you for some of the following, well, all of the following documentation. Now, they're going to ask you for your most recent P60 form from the tax office in the UK or the European equivalent. They're going to ask you for your last 3 months' pay slips. They're going to ask for a current credit report from Experian, Equifax or a similar company. And they're also going to ask you questions about your personal circumstances, your monthly outgoings, and any other information that will assist in your application. Now, this is nothing that you wouldn't expect if you were applying for a mortgage in your own country. Normally, an offer in principle can be made fairly quickly. And following receipt of all the documentation that the bank may request, the mortgage can be processed relatively quickly. And it's done in accordance with the timeline agreed with your lawyer. Now, it's worth remembering that having just come out of a financial crisis, banks aren't overly keen to lend unless the circumstances are favourable for them. There are alternatives available to you, however. You can source financing in your own country, or perhaps even a bridging loan if it's only for a small amount for a short period of time. If you do decide to use a mortgage broker, then please check out the fees and the charges prior to agreeing a mortgage. Now, if you have any further questions regarding mortgages or questions in general about the buying process here in Spain, please feel free to drop me a line on the details below. Once again, thank you for tuning into 2 Minute Tuesday with Hondon Valley Homes, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Adios.